Olá, boa tarde. Estão todos me ouvindo? Sejam bem-vindos ao webinar sobre o Chevening Scholarship. Eu sou a Tatiana, tá? Sou consultora acadêmica da OK Student, que está promovendo esse evento e convidou a equipe do programa Chevening para falar com a gente hoje um pouquinho sobre o programa, tá? Aqui no OK Student eu trabalho diretamente no atendimento aos estudantes, ajudando a encontrar o curso de carreira, o curso de universidade ideais para os planos de vida e de carreira, tá? E hoje nós convidamos o James, manager da equipe Chevening Brasil, para nos contar um pouco sobre o programa, tá? Então ele vai fazer a apresentação dele em inglês e vai responder algumas perguntas de vocês no final. Vocês podem deixar ao longo da apresentação no chat, ou em português ou em inglês, e a gente vai respondendo no final, tá? Então, sejam todos bem-vindos. E thank you, James, for accepting our invitation. Please take your time. Feel free to start.
Olá, pessoal. Boa tarde. Tudo bem? Então, meu nome é James Phillips. Eu sou chefe do programa Chevening aqui no Brasil. Minha apresentação está em português, mas eu vou falar em inglês. But if you have any questions, please do feel free to ask at the end in English or Portuguese, or please also feel free to use the chat option to put down any questions you might have. My colleague Danny is also on the call and can respond to any questions you've got in the chat. So, Chevening scholarships, if we can start the PowerPoint presentation, the next slide. Thank you. So yeah, it's finding the future leaders to undertake their master's degrees in the UK. So what is the Chevening programme? What is it about? So Chevening is a global scholarship programme, and it's financed by the UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. So that's our equivalent of Itamaraty, in partnership with organisations. It is not only available for Brazilians. Chevening is actually available in more than 160 countries, and it finances master's degrees. So it's a fully funded scholarship in any accredited UK university. So that includes England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales. So if we go to the next slide, that will explain in Portuguese what I've just mentioned.
Taking a little long to pass, but I'm trying. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's okay. There we go. So it's fine. So yeah, so that's as I've mentioned. So Chevening is it's a global scheme, and it's a scholarship scheme. It's funded by the UK government. We'll talk a little bit later about what it includes, but it's a fully funded scholarship scheme, and it's for master's level degrees only. So we do not fund undergraduate degrees, and we do not fund PhDs. It's for master's level degrees in the UK. Okay, if we go to the next slide. So what is the objective, sort of what is the point of Chevening? So what we're trying to find are sort of future leaders, what we call future leaders, future influencers and decision makers. And the UK government is interested in creating links and relationships with those people. Chevening scholars can study. It's quite a unique scholarship programme in that we do not dictate or tell the applicant what courses they have to study. We have some priority areas, and those are areas that the UK government and Brazil are working closely on together. So some of those would include things like climate change, environment, courses related to infrastructure development, but it's up to the candidate to apply for the UK university in the course they wish to, and at the same time they apply for the Chevening scholarship. I will go through a little bit later in the slide about how the timetable works with the Chevening Scholarship. But the main sort of priority of Chevening is we're trying to find future leaders, future decision makers, both in Brazil and around the world, that want to create closer links between Brazil and the UK and want to make a positive difference in their home country. If we go to the next slide. So who are we looking for? What type of people are we interested in for Chevening? So we are looking for people with ambition. They have leadership potential. You need a, what we say here, bom historico academico. What we mean by that, again, we don't put a limit on it, but you need to be able to get onto a UK master's degree course. So again, we do not help you sort of reach a UK master's degree course. So you already need to have an undergraduate degree from a Brazilian university at a level that is going to be sufficient to get you onto a UK master's course. Now, obviously, some of those levels are different. If you're applying for a course at a very prestigious elite university like Oxford or Cambridge, the entry requirements are going to be higher than some of the other UK universities. So again, it's up for the candidate to do the research and have a look at what undergraduate degree they have and the result, and see if that is equivalent or they will be able to get onto a UK course. If you're not sure, you should email the UK university and say, this is my undergraduate degree in this subject, this is the score I have, would I be able to get onto this course? We're also looking for people that have the ability of what we call here habilidades interpessoais, so what we call in English networking skills. So people that know the importance of networking, they know how to network, they know how a network can help them achieve their goals and their professional objectives. So here we talk about Chevening applicants should want to reach positions of success in their home country and in their professional area. And as I mentioned before, it can be any professional area. So it can be people interested in applying for business, medicine, a whole range of things, law, environment and climate change, but they should be people that are wanting to make a positive difference and they're wanting to get to the top of their organization or the top of their profession. Okay, if we go on to the next slide. So who can apply? So this is a really important one. So to be eligible for Chevening, you need to be Brazilian. You can have dual nationality, so you can be Brazilian and something else, as long as that other nationality is not British. So you cannot have any British nationality, but you can be Brazilian and have Portuguese passport, or Brazilian and have an Italian passport. That is all okay, as long as you do not have any British nationality. As I mentioned a little while ago, you need to have an undergraduate degree, and you need a minimum of 2 years professional experience. But included within that is things such as part-time work, internships, and any sort of non-academic work you've done. So the 2 years professional experience does not need to be paid employment, and it does not need to be 2 years employment in one job continuously, so 2 years doing one job. How it works on the application form is you are asked to tally up the number of hours that you have maybe interned in this organization, or perhaps you've done some voluntary work for a charity. All of those things count towards 2 years professional experience. But people that would not be eligible is if you have come straight out of university and you haven't had any internships or any voluntary experience, you would not be eligible. You would need to have built up a minimum of 2 years professional experience, but that 2 years, like I said, does not need to be continual paid employment. One of the other conditions is you cannot have received financial assistance from the UK government before, so that's a very unlikely one. And again, quite unique with Chevening is there is no age limit. So we do not have a cap on the age limit. We are looking for people with leadership, ambition, and people that want to make a positive change, irregardless of their age. The next slide, there's a bit more information about the eligibility criteria. So before you can get the Chevening scholarship, you need to have received an unconditional offer from one of your chosen courses. So as I mentioned, you need to apply for a minimum of 3 courses in the UK. That can be 3 courses at the same university, or it can be 3 of the same courses at different UK universities. Again, it's up to the candidate to find the course and the university that most suits them. And you go through that university's application process like you would, it would all be online. And at the same time, you apply for Chevening. And if you are successful with the Chevening scholarship, then we will pay for all the tuition fees, your flights. I'll come on to that a bit later. But if you apply for 3 UK courses, 3 UK universities, and you are rejected from all of them, so if you do not have a high enough grade to get onto that course, even if you are successful with Chevening, even if you're successful at the interview, we would not be able to give you a scholarship, because you can only get a scholarship if you get onto a UK course via your own merit. In terms of other eligibility criteria, so this is quite a recent change in terms of English language proficiency. So Chevening, for our process, you do not need to provide an IELTS or a TOEFL or an English language test, but you will need to provide that for the UK university. So again, the level and which test is accepted by the UK university is slightly different depending on the UK university you're applying for. So when you apply for Chevening, the application form is in English, so you'll need to fill it out, and there's some mini essays you need to do in English. If you are then selected for interview, then the interview will be in English, but you do not need to provide in advance of the Chevening application an IELTS test or a TOEFL test result, because we will assess your English language both on the application form and during the interview. But as I mentioned, you will be required by the UK university to provide proof of English language to them. I can't say the exact score or which test result is needed, because the UK universities have got slightly different selection criteria for that. So again, it's something that you as the candidate will need to do some research on to see which UK university you're interested in, which course, and the English language level that is required by them. So again, the next slide is a really important one. It's about what does Chevening cover? What do we pay for? So we pay for the entire tuition fee, the only exception being an MBA, so a Master of Business Administration. We pay up to £18,000. And if the course is above that, then the candidate would need to pay for the rest of the tuition fee themselves. But that is the only exception. Any other course, excluding an MBA, we pay for the whole tuition fee. We pay a monthly allowance to the candidate. So the candidate, the scholar, I should say, when they are in the UK, will not need to work. Because they get a monthly allowance. It's adjusted each year, and if you go to a university in London, it is slightly more than the rest of the UK, because London is more expensive. But using that money, you will be able to pay for your accommodation, your food, your travel expenses, your living expenses. That money is paid directly into a UK bank account. So you will receive that money each month. And again, it's up to the scholar to then budget effectively and to work out that money, to make sure they've got enough for rent, to make sure they've got enough for food, the bus, etc. We pay for the return flight, so we pay for you to get to and from the UK, including some extra baggage, so that you'll be able to take plenty of things with you. In terms of health service, we pay what's called the National Health Surcharge. So that means when you're in the UK, you will be able to access the NHS just like a British national would. So if you had any health problems, you would be able to access the National Health Service, and you would not need private medical insurance. And then whilst in the UK, there are also some extra allowances you can apply for. So just as a quick example, if you were studying at a university in London, but you really wanted to speak to an expert professor who perhaps was based in Manchester, but is an expert in the area that you're studying in, you would be able to apply for a small grant to be able to go up to Manchester to speak to that professor, to maybe help you with some of your research or your studying. And all of those, none of those grants need to be paid back, but they're all sort of, you apply for them at the time as you need them. Okay, what more does Chevening offer? What more does Chevening cover? So one of the really important things about Chevening is it's not just a scholarship. What we're creating, or what we have created, is a sort of a global network of alumni. So Chevening has been running for 37 years. So we've got more than 50,000 Chevening alumni around the world, and nearly 2,000 alumni just in Brazil alone. So you're joining this community of people, all of whom have been on the same experience of you. They've all received the Chevening scholarship. They've all studied in the UK. And you're joining this community, so you will have access to all of those alumni via, it's kind of like a social media site we have that is just reserved for Chevening alumni. We have a Chevening alumni LinkedIn group, lots of different social media sites. Pre-COVID, this year, obviously things are very difficult because of COVID, but in normal times, whilst in the UK, there is a whole range of activities that will take place, and hopefully the scholars that are successful and go to the UK in September this year, hopefully by the time they get to the UK in September, a lot of these events will have been reinstated. So there's networking events, there's speeches, there's seminars, there's lectures. They're encouraged to, scholars are encouraged to get involved with voluntary work, paid employment. So it's not just a case of a scholarship and you go to the UK. It's what we say is you're a Chevening scholar for life, and you're joining this community, many of whom hopefully will be able to help you with jobs when you come back, and you can call on their expertise. And we want our alumni, both within Brazil and around the world, engaged and talking to each other and helping to solve many of the world's problems. And there we talk about, it's a global network of influence and prestige. So next slide, a little bit, I've just talked about this. Chevening has been going since 1983, more than 50,000 alumni in the world. And in Brazil, we're coming up to 2,000 alumni. As it mentions there, a real diverse range of sectors. So we've got people all across Brazil who have benefited from Chevening. So over the years, we have had at least one person from every 27 of Brazil's states who have benefited from Chevening. Obviously, the vast majority of people are based in the urban areas. So we've got about 350 people in Sao Paulo that have been on Chevening, a few hundred in Brasilia, a few hundred in BH, a few hundred in Rio de Janeiro as well. And they're working in loads of different areas, politics, law, NGOs. So yeah, real diverse range. Okay, so the selection process, how does it work? How do you apply or candidate yourself? So these dates specifically refer to this year that we are currently in, but the dates are always roughly the same. The Chevening cycle or calendar is just that, it's cyclical. So always in September of each year, applications will open. So September of this year, September 2021, applications will open for students that want to go to the UK in September 2022. So it's kind of a year-long process. Chevening is very competitive. Obviously, it's a fully funded scholarship, and it takes a long time. So it is a year process. So you need to be really well prepared and to think about your application form and the type of information you want to put on there. And then if you get selected for interview, you need to really prepare for the interview as well. So as I mentioned, every September, Chevening applications open. All of the application is done online. If you're interested in Chevening, one of the things I would say is go to www.chevening.org, which is the main Chevening global website. And on there, you can sign up for a newsletter. It only comes out like an email newsletter. It only comes out once every 3 months, so you won't be inundated with emails from them, but they will keep you updated, so you will know the exact date that applications open. So it's just a useful way to keep in touch with Chevening, and they send lots of tips and advice and hints. So if you are interested, please look at the website and you can sign up for the email newsletter so that you know exactly when applications open each year. November each year, applications close. So you've got roughly 3 months to complete the online application form. In December of each year, we basically read and all the applications are received, and we then basically shortlist them. So we will receive a few thousand applications from Brazil, but we will interview about, it depends, between 150 and 200 people each year. So as I mentioned, it's competitive. You need to really make sure, spend time on your application. Please don't just do it the night before, or even the week before, because it's a very competitive scheme. And we're looking for people, as I mentioned earlier, that have leadership and ambition. They want to create closer links between Brazil and the UK, and they need to really have thought about how they can do that. So between March and May, so next week, we will start interviewing. I think it's 154 people we are interviewing this year. And of those 154, roughly 1 in 3 will receive the scholarship. So each year, we send between 50 to 55 Brazilians to the UK for the fully funded Chevening scholarship. So if you're selected for interview, that's a really great achievement. But once you're selected for interview, you then also need to be successful in the interview. About 1 in 3 will be successful. Those that are successful will find out in June of each year. So they will get an email saying you have been selected for the Chevening scholarship. And then we sort of have July and August, where it's a case of getting ready to go to the UK and making sure you have all the paperwork. One of the things I should also mention that Chevening covers is we pay for your UK visa. So you will still need to submit your biometrics and you still apply for the UK visa, but you do not pay for it. We pay for it. And yeah, then September of October of each year, the successful scholars fly to the UK and start their courses, and they will be in the UK for about a year. So they will start September, October until the following year. So next, I'm going to talk a bit more about the application form, but also the interview, because there's 4 key areas that we are looking for. And I mentioned these earlier, but I'll talk a bit more about them now. So in the application form, you will be asked to demonstrate and to give concrete examples about your leadership and influencing skills. So please don't just talk in generic terms about what leadership means to you or what you think a good leader is. What we want is examples from you about times that you have demonstrated leadership skills, because you need to prove to us that you know how to be a good leader, and you know how to take people with you and to influence people. It's exactly the same with networking. We want on the application form and in the interview, if you're successful getting to the interview, concrete examples about times that you have used networking to your advantage. How have you used network to perhaps get a job, or how have you used networking to find out about opportunities that you might not have otherwise done, and how have you used the benefit of engaging with people to achieve real results? So please, in both of these sections, always think about the skills you used, but what was the end result? What was the positive impact? The other 2 key areas that we look for and is assessed in the application and the interview is about a study plan. So we want to find out why the UK, why particular that university, and we will ask you during the interview, why did you choose the University of Birmingham, or why did you choose the University of Manchester? What is it about the UK that interests you? What is it about UK-Brazil links? Like, how are you going to strengthen the relationship between UK and Brazil in your chosen area? And then finally, the final sort of area we're really interested in is about your career plan. So we want people, as I mentioned before, that are ambitious and they have plans, but they also need to be realistic. So there's no point saying, you want to become the next president of Brazil if you have no plans to enter into politics. Like, that's not what we're looking for. It can be any subject area or any sort of chosen career. We want ambition, but it also needs to be realistic. We want to hear from you about what is your short-term career plan, what is your mid-term career plan, and the long term, say in 20 or 30 years, what sort of job do you want to be doing? And crucially, what sort of impact do you want to be having? So we want to hear that, you want to be working in this organization, doing this job, and what change is going to be occurring as a result of you having that job, and what impact or result are you going to be having? Okay, so a bit more information about Chevening. So for this current academic year, so scholars that are currently in the UK, there's more than 1,700 from 160 countries. So I mentioned at the start that it's not only Brazil that gets these scholarships, it's 160 countries around the world that get them. Brazil gets one of the biggest numbers of scholars, but there are 1,700 Chevening scholars in the UK at any one time. So last year, as it were, there were more than 1,200 applications, and there are 46 Brazilians in the UK at the moment on a Chevening scholarship. That number was slightly less than normal due to complications with COVID, and things were obviously a bit more complicated this year. But the number is always around 50 that we send to the UK. So, little bit more about where to go and things to do. So applications always open September to November. So you can ignore the 2020 part there. It's always September to November. all of the application is done online. So the main Chevening website is www.chevening.org. And then the application sort of site is just /apply. But if you just Google Chevening, you will find the main site, and there's loads of information on there. So please, there's no such thing as starting to look too early. There's no such thing as starting to plan too early. You can't really plan your application too early. If you're thinking about applying in September this year, there is no reason you can't start looking at the website now. You can't start looking at some of our social media sites now to see what some of our alumni have got up to. There's no reason you can't start reaching out to some of our alumni. Some of the candidates we get, the really good candidates, have perhaps spoken to alumni, they've perhaps found them. We cannot give you the details of our sort of alumni, their own personal details, but if it's up to you. If you can find some of those alumni and speak to them, then I'm sure that's something that will strengthen your application. The next slide just lists all the different social media sites we're on. So basically, Chevening is on everything, right? So we've got the main site, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Under Instagram, there is the main Chevening site, Chevening FCDO, but we also have a specific Instagram account just for Chevening alumni in Brazil. But you do not need to be an alumnus to join that account. It's an open Instagram account. So anyone, if you just search Chevening Alumni Brazil, you can join that, and we detail some of the successes and the stories about our alumni. But again, we have lots of information on there regarding like doing a good application and the things you should think about. We also have a site on LinkedIn, which is called UK in Brazil, which is the wider sort of UK embassy site. But again, there is information on about Chevening on there. Yeah, and I think that's everything from me. So I suppose sort of the things I would reiterate are the type people we are looking for: people with ambition, leadership potential. They want to make a positive change in their area or their community. You can apply for any master's level degree at any UK university, but it is master's level only, not undergraduate and not PhD. So as it is master's level only, you need to already have an undergraduate degree, and you need your 2 years professional experience in whatever capacity it may be. And I suppose the last thing I would say is, if perhaps you don't have the 2 years experience yet, or you don't feel ready, perhaps you feel your English level is not yet up to standard, there's no such thing as looking too early. You can start looking at Chevening website. As I mentioned, start looking at people that have perhaps benefited from Chevening in the past, try and speak to some of them, perhaps start even planning your application for next year. You don't need to start writing it, but you can start researching UK universities and UK courses and thinking about the courses you may want to apply for. You can apply for Chevening as many times as you like, in the sense that if you are unsuccessful 1 year, you can apply the next year. We have lots of people that might be unsuccessful in their first year. Perhaps they get to interview in their first year, but then they don't get the scholarship. Lots of those people come back and are successful in their second try. We were speaking to an alumnus yesterday, and she applied for Chevening 3 times, so 3 years in a row, and it was on her 3rd year that she was successful and she got the Chevening scholarship. So I understand it can be very disheartening if you apply for the scholarship and don't get it, but please do, consider applying again, because like I say, lots of people, once they've been through the process, they understand it a bit more, and perhaps they will be successful in their 2nd or 3rd attempt. So I think that's everything from me. this PowerPoint presentation that we've gone through today, I'm happy it can be sent on to you guys. So if anyone wants to receive it, absolutely no problem to send it on. If my colleague Danny, hopefully is on the call, can also put our email in the chat option, then if you think of any other questions, please do email us. But what I would say first is to have a look at the Chevening website, because there's a frequently asked question page on there. So probably most questions that you might think of will already be answered on there. And there's a whole wealth of information and assistance on the website. So that is everything from me, but I am happy to answer any questions anyone may have. I have seen, I'm just going to open the chat. I've seen a few people have been commenting. So let me...
James,
yes.
before starting start the question, I would like to invite everyone to the next webinar on March 16th. We are going to talk about visa, student visa. So we have a lot of students with questions about it. So we are going to talk about the visa process and answer questions as today. So we will send the invitation by email for everyone who is here today, okay? And if you need some assistance with the university choice, we are here to help as well. So that's it. Let me stop sharing the screen to answer the questions. It's easier to read. James, do you want to read or do you want me to read to you?
Probably, if you don't mind reading them, then I can answer them. It's probably easier.
Okay. The first question is about the minimum score. Natalia is saying that depends on the university, but the minimum for the program is 60% as well. Is
that the minimum English language score or the minimum?
No, the minimum score. She wrote the minimum score depends on the university, but the minimum for the program is 60%. I imagine she's asking about the score on his degree, the university degree.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So they're right. It depends on the UK university, and it depends on the subject area, to be honest. So to take a look at the UK university and the application criteria. If you're not sure, just email the UK university and they will be able to tell you. But typically what we say, and obviously it doesn't translate exactly, is that you need the equivalent to a UK upper 2-1 degree. So that's about a 60%, I think they mentioned. But like I say, some courses will be harder to get onto than others. But you need to be confident that you can get onto a UK course, because otherwise there's no, if you're rejected from all the UK universities, then even if we think you're an amazing candidate, we cannot give you the scholarship if you haven't got a UK university place.
The next question, may I present my application for Chevening program if I have already been awarded a PhD degree?
Yeah, you can. You can have a PhD. You can have a master's already. That's not a problem. You can have studied overseas before. So as long as you are Brazilian, but if you've studied, perhaps you did your undergraduate degree overseas, or perhaps you just did 1 semester or 1 year overseas, you can have also had a scholarship, been a recipient of a scholarship. So if you've done something like Science Without Borders, that is okay, as long as the scholarship was not funded by the UK government. So you could have even done Science Without Borders in the UK, but as long as the UK government did not pay for it, that's fine. You're still eligible for Chevening.
Okay. Could James please comment on UK FCDO project related to gender inclusion?
Sorry, I missed that. Related to?
Gender inclusion.
Gender inclusion. So in terms of, well, in terms of sort of Chevening process regarding gender inclusion, we don't have a problem. So we have many more females applying for Chevening, especially in Brazil, than men. If anything, we need to try and get some more men applying. So typically our gender breakdown in Brazil is about 70% of applicants are female, and that translates almost directly to successful applicants. So we get it's about between 60 and 70% of applicants are female, and about 60 to 70% of the successful candidates, as you probably expect, are female. In terms of UK sort of wider SCDO gender inclusion policies, it kind of depends on the sector, but all of our sectors, so the Prosperity Fund, for etc., all UK areas, as part of the programme or part of the project, have a specific element dedicated to gender inclusion. So it really depends on the area, but all of our work regarding climate change, environment, forestry, there's a whole section dedicated just to gender and diversity.
Thank you. The next is Chevening covers graduation or only master's?
So it's just master's level degrees.
Okay. The person told her story, so let me read. I already applied twice to this scholarship. At the first time, I got a lot of mistakes, such in the application form and in my essay. At the second time, I tried to follow all the instructions, but I didn't pass. What is the criteria when they are assessing the essays and the form?
So the criteria is that which I talked about earlier. There's 4 key areas that we're looking for. So leadership and potential. And the thing I would say there is you have to provide concrete examples. Please don't talk sort of in theoretical terms about what leadership is. We want to know that you have examples and evidence of leading. And it's up to you to decide the best example. So that doesn't need to be a professional paid employment example. It can be about leading a voluntary group or leading a group at university, but perhaps talk about some of the challenges involved and how did you overcome some of those challenges and what skills did you use to lead. Exactly the same with networking, the same with the career plan and studying in the UK. Obviously, this is, you'd be going to the UK, so we want people that are interested in strengthening links between the UK and Brazil. Talk to us a bit about, I don't know, say you're a doctor or you're working in a particular line of medicine. Tell us a bit about how are you going to enhance that cooperation between Brazil and the UK in your chosen area, and why are you the best person to do that?
The next one, what do you believe to be a good way for us to know if you are candidates with real chance?
I would say, I mean, everyone has a real chance. There's no sort of, as I mentioned, there's no age criteria, so we're not cutting people off. It all comes down to the application. So we're not going to be looking at anyone's sort of Instagram account or Googling anyone. What we are assessing is the application form. You can be any age as long as you meet the eligibility criteria. So as long as you're Brazilian and you've got the minimum 2 years experience and you've got the undergraduate degree, you have to meet all of those criteria. There's no point, if you don't meet one of them, then you will be ineligible. But as long as you meet those criteria, everything is based on the application form, and then that gets you through to the interview, and then the ultimate result of the interview is whether you get the scholarship or not. So as I've mentioned, it comes down to the type people we're looking for. People that are gonna make a positive difference. They know what they want to do in their life, and they know how achieving scholarship and studying the UK is going to help them. So, you know, if we said to you, why do you want to study environment at the University of Sussex? You need to have a good answer to that, right? Like, you need to be able to know why studying this course is going to help you on your career, because you need it to be able to show that you have the expertise and the research basis to be able to get this job. And why do you want that job? Because you want to be able to make a positive difference. You want to be able to change things for the better. So as I mentioned, it is a competitive scheme, and we're looking for people that have really thought through how this scholarship is going to help them, how is it going to help their community, and how is it going to help Brazil and the UK.
What would you say are the most common mistakes applicants who cannot succeed in the interview stage?
So is this people that get to the interview stage or don't get to the interview stage?
I really don't know what he was trying to say, but I think he wants to know about the interview.
Okay.
Well, do not succeed in the interview. I think he was asking that.
So I would say, so obviously the interview is really nerve-wracking, right? Like we get that. You're getting, normally it's face-to-face, but again, at the moment, because of COVID, we're doing all the interviews online. Again, you need to be clear about what it is you want to achieve, because we can see quite clearly, not through someone that's lying, so I'm not saying anyone is lying, but if you're saying that you want to you know, get into this area of work and you want to make a positive change, then we are going to ask you about that. So it's not a case of the interview, it's more like a conversation. There are some set questions we ask, but it's much more conversational to find out, have you done your research in terms of, like, do you really know the impact you want to have and the change that you want to have? And that's it, really. Like, you need to be able to you need to have done your research. You need to be able to provide good examples. Don't only use one example for all questions. So we need a few different examples, and the examples need to provide evidence of what you did. I would say those are, it's not so much a case of mistake, but, you know, go in feeling confident, go in talking about why you should be the person that we choose. There is a place for modesty, but it's not necessarily in the interview. Like, please don't be too modest. Like, you need to sell yourself. You are going in to try and win a scholarship against another 150 people who are also trying to win that scholarship. So if you have got really great achievements in your past, and if you think, yeah, I'm going to go on and I'm going to make a difference in the world, then you need to tell us that. Because we cannot guess that. You need to be confident in your skills, and you need to be confident enough to tell us that you know, this is the impact I want to have.
Sophia is asking, where can we find the priority areas for Chevening?
So I would say the best thing there to do is, we do not so much list them on our website. So we do not say Chevening Brazil is only looking for people interested in these priority areas, because we're not. It is up to the candidate to demonstrate why they're important to us. But having said that, there are some natural areas where Brazil and the UK work closer on. So what I would say is, make sure you're following all of the UK in Brazil social media sites. So those are the sites of the British Embassy in Brazil. We've got a British Embassy in Brasilia, and then we also have a British consulate in Sao Paulo, Rio, Recife, and BH. And there's a lot of information on there. So if you're following those sites, you will see that the UK and Brazil are doing a lot of work together on COP and environment and forestry. So you can tell that that is an area where we're very interested to hear from people on. You will also see that there's a lot of work that UK and Brazil are working on regarding business and sort of enhanced trade links and agroforestry, etc. So again, that is an area where we're interested in. But that does not only mean we want candidates from those areas. Brazil and the UK have cooperated a lot in the past on sport as a result of us both hosting the Olympics recently. In culture, in English language, we're doing a lot of work. So I would say, take a look at all our website, all of our social media sites, and you will see the type things that the UK is working on. But just because there's not something, say if you're really interested in doing a course on, I don't know, something, and that you can't find any mention of that sort of subject area on any of our sites, then it's up to you to explain in your application and in your interview why we should be working on that. Like, why should the Brazil and UK be cooperating on that? And why are you the person or the type candidate that is going to help us strengthen those links? The one thing I always say is that we've got the embassy here and 4 consulates. So there is a big British presence in Brazil. And I think it would be hard to find a subject area where Brazil and the UK are not cooperating on. So we cooperate on areas of defence, trade, security, cyber security, counter drug trafficking, as I've already mentioned, forestry, climate change. The list is really huge. So it would be hard to find an area where you could not argue a Brazil-UK link. But that's up to the candidate to do. That's not for us to say what the link is. The candidate needs to think really carefully about what sort of links already exist, how can I develop those links. Just obviously over the last year, as a result of COVID, the UK and Brazil have been working closely on vaccines and medicine work together. So there's a whole range of subject areas.
There is a question in Portuguese. She's asking if she be accepted by the free university that which she applied. She can choose anyone, or she needs to choose the first option.
No, doesn't need to choose the first option. So on the application form, you list them 1, 2, 3, but you do not need to choose the first option. So if you choose 3 universities and say the first option rejects you, they say, you know, no, your score is not high enough. That's not a problem. As long as the second or even third university accepts you, that's fine. Perhaps the first university doesn't reject you, but you do a bit more research and you decide, actually, my favorite option is actually the one I listed third. Again, that's okay. It can be any one of those 3. It does not need to be in order.
Another information about it, the person needs to accept the offer to have the unconditional offer to post on Chevening. So she needs to choose the option between the university she was accepted to inform to Chevening, right, Jim?
Yeah, exactly. So how it works is you apply for the UK universities like separately via their own process online, and you apply for Chevening online. And then if you get selected for the Chevening interview, you will come to interview, we'll have a conversation at the start and say, okay, which universities have you been applied for? And which ones have you been accepted for? And someone might say, I've been accepted to all 3, or I got rejected from 1, but I've been accepted to 2. And then we will say, okay, so which, if you were successful with the scholarship, which is your favorite choice? Which is your number 1 choice? So we have that conversation at interview, and the candidate needs to decide by the interview stage, they need to let us know what their first choice is. But that's right up until, well, we start interviewing in March, so they've got a long time to do their research and determine which one is their favourite course.
Isabel is asking, how can I choose the best university for me?
Again, it's up to you to find out, really. It depends on your subject area. You know, it depends on what you mean by the best university. Do you mean the best academically? In which case it would be Oxford or Cambridge. But Oxford and Cambridge are not the best universities for everybody, and they're not the best universities for certain subjects. So it depends. What I would say is what subject, what course area do you want to study? And then you need to start doing some Google research about UK universities good for development studies or best UK universities for economics. And then start thinking about, do you want to be in London or do you want to be in another city? Do you want a campus university? So university where everything is on one site? Do you want one where it's spread across the city? Do you want to be in England? Do you want to be in Scotland? There's a whole range of things to think about. So there's no one best university. I mean, normally our most popular UK university each year is LSE, the London School of Economics. That is a very prestigious university, and it's got a long sort of history of receiving a lot of Brazilian students. So there's sort of certain reasons behind that. But the University of Sussex down in Brighton is the world leader, the world's best university for subjects such as development and climate change. So we get a lot of students applying there. So it really depends on your interest and the type university that would work for you.
Also, OK Students can help with this part. Our consultancy is about choosing the best university and courses to your plans for the future. So we are here to help. Natalia is asking, I am pursuing a career that's different from my university degree. I graduated in civil engineer and I am working with data analytics. Is that a problem?
No, it's not a problem at all. But, you know, we will ask you about that. So it's not a problem. As long as you sort of have a good reason why, you know, perhaps you did your undergraduate degree in one course and you are applying for a master's in another. That's not a problem. But, you know, you need to be able to justify why. So, you know, you need to be able to tell us why you've had that career change or what your interest is. But no, it's not a problem.
The interviews will still be online in the next years to come.
Hopefully next year we will be able to do interviews face-to-face again. We will have to wait and see. We were hoping this year we would be able to do them face-to-face, but obviously that has not been possible yet. Because last year we did about a quarter of them face-to-face. The rest we had to do online. This year we will do all of them online. I will hope next year, I do hope next year is face-to-face, but we will just have to wait and see.
There is a question about deadline, timeline. She's saying that check-in the universities start applying together with Chevening Day. So I think you explained that in the presentation. If she has time to apply to the university and then apply to Chevening.
Exactly, and vice versa. So you can apply for, so if the Chevening Day is slightly earlier, because we need to receive the application by November, you can list the UK universities and courses you're interested in, but you don't necessarily have to have applied for them by then. So as long as you know that those are the ones you want, you don't have to have finished the UK university application, but you know, you need to know that those are the ones you are going to apply for. So you don't, by the time you submit your Chevening application, you do not need to have finished every UK university application, but you need to know which ones you will apply for.
There's a lot of questions here.
I think my colleague Danny might have put our email down, so that yeah, people can always email us with if we can't get through them all, then we're happy to respond to email questions as well.
Let me see. There is some questions repeated, so I'm reading to find a new one. Daniel is answering some through the chat, so I'm skipping just a minute. If I apply for a university and get the offer, but don't be successful at Chevening, what should I do?
So, I mean, then unless you can afford to pay it yourself privately, then you cannot get the scholarship. So obviously we have a lot of people that apply for the UK universities, may get an acceptance, but then are unsuccessful with Chevening. So that's up to the candidate. If they can afford to pay it themselves, then obviously they can do that. If not, if they cannot afford to go, and the only way they can afford is with a scholarship, then they will need to think about applying again in future.
I have been shortlisted for an interview. I would just like to confirm if it's okay to change one of the universities that I had already listed on my application.
Yeah, that's fine. So in the interview, we will talk about the choices. So we will say, are you still happy with these three choices? Do you want to make any changes? So we will have that conversation at the interview.
What email can we ask for future questions? Solicit the recording of this call. The email Danielle typed on the chat, right? And the recording is with me. So I will type my email on the chat as well. It's consultoria@OK Student. And you are receiving information from, you will receive an email from me too. So you can reply in that, okay? How to count 2 years of experience, job experience?
So how it works, and I can't remember the exact amount of hours, but it's something like 2,500 hours is roughly equivalent to 2 years. And on the application form, it will literally total up the hours. So you will say, I've done 4 hours voluntary work every Saturday for 10 weeks, and that will total up to say 40 hours. And then you will say, I was part of a student body group, and that was equivalent to say 200 hours over the last few years. And that basically totals up. And as long as that equates to more than the total number of hours, then you are eligible. So as I mentioned, doesn't need to be paid employment, as long as it's not sort of academic work, as long as it's nothing directly related to your degree. So it can be voluntary organizations, it can include things like student bodies, it can include internships, it obviously does include paid work, and it does not need to be paid work directly related to your degree. So if you're a student, but you've been working for weekends in a shop or been doing something for the last few years, all of that counts.
There is some questions about COVID. In case of COVID getting worse, do you know if selected applicants could defer their award to the next year?
So it hasn't yet been determined. I think it's probably quite unlikely. So applicants that are currently in the UK, they were able to defer, but only in quite extreme circumstances. So that if they were offered the award, they were able to defer if they worked in medicine. So if they were a doctor or worked in a hospital and they were needed in Brazil, they could defer. If they had a very close family member suffering from COVID, they could defer. So in the past, some deferrals have been allowed, but the criteria has been quite strict. The UK government has said that all sectors of the UK economy are going to open in June. So hopefully, touch wood, by June, the UK will sort of be back to almost normal, because by then, I think 90 to 100% of the population will have been vaccinated. So I think it's quite unlikely that deferrals will be allowed this year. It's not confirmed because we need to wait to see what happens with COVID, but I think it's quite unlikely.
How will Chevening deal with the mandatory quarantine measures that the UK is demanding from travelers coming from Brazil?
So again, by the time that scholars will be heading to the UK, it is again not confirmed because it's COVID, but it is foreseen that there will no longer be some of those travel restrictions, or certainly the quarantine measures in place. Certainly with regards to like the hotel stay where people have to pay, it could be that there is a quarantine measure where people maybe need to stay in their university accommodation or their own accommodation for a week or 2 weeks. But it's predicted that the measures that are currently in place will have lessened by then.
Any chance you will get vaccinated in the UK if accepted?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's hard to know with COVID, but I mean, our current scholars in the UK, they will all be getting vaccinated in the UK. If you are in the UK as a Chevening scholar, you have access to the medical facilities just like a British national. So all of the current Brazilians in the UK will get the UK vaccine. They won't get it faster than anyone else. They will get it according to their age category. But yeah, they will all get it in the UK.
If the candidate has to take his family to UK, would that be a negative factor for the acceptance?
No, it wouldn't be. So you can take wife, husband, partner, and children, but you need to be able to prove that you can financially support them. So the scholarship, the amount of money you get is not increased if you want to take your wife, husband, partner, and children. So you would get the same amount whether you take your children or family as to whether you don't. So you would need to prove to the UK authorities that you have savings or that you have money that you can support them whilst they're in the UK. But you can, we've had scholars most years, normally someone takes a partner or some children and they can legally go, the children can go into a UK school. But as I mentioned, you would need to be able to prove that you have the funds to support them because the scholarship money would not be enough for a family. It's only enough for one person.
In which part of the process I need to submit the reference letters?
So how it works is at the time of the application, you need to detail the names of your references. So we need 2 references, but you do not need to submit them at the time of your application. So by November, you need to submit your application and you just need to put the name and the email of your references. So you need to say, this is who my references will be, but they do not need to have written the reference. If you are successful with interview, then you need to approach them, and all of the application is done online. So you will get an email saying, you have been selected for interview. Now please approach your references. Your references write you the letter and you upload it to the system so that we can see them.
No more questions.
Okay, that's good because I need to get going in a second because I have another meeting. But yeah, as I saw that Danny has put the email in the chat a few times. So if people do think of other questions or if something wasn't clear, I suppose first step, please do check out all the social media sites and the Chevening website. And if you can't see an answer to your question there, then please do feel free to email us.
Thank you, James. Obrigada a todos.
You're welcome. Boa tarde a todos. Obrigado.
Bye bye.